Hello and a very warm welcome to the channel. Now today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet a traditional style granny square, and I know there are a lot of tutorials here on YouTube for granny squares, but I'm actually going to be showing you how to make a crochet bag in an upcoming video, so I thought it would be really nice if I started by showing you how to actually make the granny square. So for this project I'm going to be using a number 4 crochet hook, and that is a UK size 4, and I believe in the US that is a G6, at least that's what it says here on my crochet hook. And using this hook I'm going to be doing a 5 round granny square, and that measures 115mm or 4.5 inches square. And the yarn I'm using today is called Paint Box yarn, and this is a 2-ply double knit yarn. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to begin by making a loop in my yarn and pushing the hook through, tightening the loop on the hook. I'm then going to do a chain of 6, so putting the hook behind the yarn and pulling it through the first chain. That makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. I'm then going to join that into a loop by putting the hook through the first chain, and then I'm going to go behind the yarn again and pull it through. I then like to tighten up that ring, and we're now going to be working into the centre of the ring. So I'm going to begin again with a chain of 3, 1, 2, 3, and that will make the first crochet of our first cluster. Each cluster has 3 crochets, and we're going to do 4 clusters into this central ring. So now go in behind the yarn, push it through the centre of the ring, and as we go along I like to crochet in the tails, so I'm going to tuck that behind the ring. But if you would rather sew those in at the end, then just leave that loose. I'm going to tuck it around there like that. I'm then going to pull the yarn through the ring, and that then leaves 3 loops on the hook. We're then going to pull the yarn through 2, leaving 2 loops, and through 2 again. And it's that basic crochet stitch that we're going to use throughout this project, so this is a really easy square to make. Now, I'm not going to talk about stitch names because I know that in different countries we call them different names, and I think here in the UK we call it a treble crochet, and in the US it is a double crochet, and I'm not sure of the stitch names in other countries, so I won't talk stitch names as I've said, but I'll just show you and talk you through what I'm doing every step of the way. So that is now 2 crochets making up 2 of our first cluster of 3. So we're then going to go behind the yarn again, through the centre of the ring, pull the yarn through, leaving 3 loops on the hook, and then pull the yarn through 2 and through 2, and that makes our first cluster. Now before moving on to the next cluster I'm going to do a chain of 2, and this creates a corner, and that will create the corner at every corner of the square on each row of crochet. Some people like to do 3 there, some people just 1, but I like to do the 2, and I think it gives a nice sharp corner without making the work too baggy. And then we're just going to repeat what we've just done, but this time we're going to do 3 crochets into the central ring. So behind the yarn, through the central ring, pull the yarn through, just release some yarn there, and then pull it through 2 and 2 again. I like to sort of keep tightening up my work as I go, so that's why you see me sort of pulling it around the ring there. I'm still tying in that tail end, or crocheting it in, just by sort of keeping it tucked behind that ring there. So pull the yarn through, so you've got 3 loops on your hook, and then pull it through 2 and through 2 again, and then repeat that. Then we do our corner of 2, and then we go back through the central ring and do our 3 crochets, and we're now working on our 3rd cluster. So the 3rd crochet, and there you can see our central square forming. Another 2 chains to create the corner, and back through the ring. If it gets twisted, just sort of twist your work so that you can get through the loops. And there is our final crochet of our final cluster. We're now going to join the yarn in, and here, although I usually do 2 chains to create a corner, in the last chain I normally just do 1, and I find that keeps the work a little bit tighter. So I just do 1 like that, and then we're joining it in the 3rd chain that we did at the beginning to create the 1st crochet of our 1st cluster. So just go through like that, through that 1st chain, like that, and then pull the yarn through both. Now I'm going to be joining in new colours for each row, but if you just wanted to do a single coloured square, then you can just keep going here. So you would do your chain of 3 now, and then begin again in that section there. But as I'm going to be casting off, I'm going to pull out the loop like that, snip the wool, and then tie it through. Pull that nice and tightly, and then I'm going to crochet that in at the back of the work. And I just like sort of tidying up all of the ends as I go along, as I find it quite a sort of tedious task to do at the end, especially when you're making quite a few squares. So I'm sort of just pulling it through the loops at the back of the work, go through like that, and then I come back this way, going in the back of the crochets. I'll just pull through one more like that, and then you can trim those off. And then as we work around, they also get sort of held in by the next row around. So you've got a nice neat looking square at both the front and back, and your ends are nice and secure. So we're now going to join in the next colour. I'm going to go for this pale pink, which I've got a small ball. So I just pull the yarn through like that, and then tie it on, and then again I come around the back and I crochet that end in. So I go through the first chain like that, and then come to the back of the work, pull it through, And the reason I come back along this way is because if you keep going, then you may be able to see that through the hole from the front. So never sort of go across one of your gaps, or your chain spaces rather. Go through a couple more crochets there. I'm going to leave that loose for now and then begin the second round. So we're going to start again with the chain of 3. And it looked like I did 4 there, but that first one where you're sort of pulling it through is just to join it on. So I've got 3 chains there. I'm going to go behind the yarn, through the corner chain space, pull the yarn through, and then pull the yarn through 2 chains, and then through 2 again. And in each corner now we're going to do 2 clusters separated by a chain of 2. And again, that first chain of 3 you did counts as the first crochet of your first cluster of 3. So then do your chain of 2 behind the yarn again and back through the same chain space. Pull the yarn through 2 and through 2. And there's the first crochet of our second cluster in the same corner. And then repeat. Now here we're going over into our second corner. I'm going to do a single chain. So for me the rule is 2 chains to create a corner and a single chain between clusters. So then I would go behind the yarn and into my next corner. Pull the yarn through 2 and through 2. There's my first 3 crochets. I'm going to do my corner of 2 chains and then back in that same corner and repeat. So again, I'm going to do a single chain to move into my next corner. Then do 2 more clusters of 3. First cluster of 3, 2 chains. Begin my second cluster of 3. A single chain to move into my next corner. 2 more clusters of 3. That's my second row complete, and here I don't do a chain, I just join into the third chain of that first chain of 3 again and then pull the yarn through. Extend the loop and then snip and tie and then again I crochet the loose end in at the back. And then I trim that off. If you've only got a sort of short tail there, you can pull it in again. Or pull it through rather. Go through that one. And I like to pull as much of it through as I can before I sort of trim it off. Just trim off that little fluffy end there. And there are our first 2 rounds. Okay, so I've joined in my third colour as we did before, just by tying that onto the corner there, and I've pulled through the tail end at the back, and I'm going to begin, as we always do, with our chain of 3. Chain of 2 for the corner, and a single chain from the corner into the next chain space. So as you can see, for the third round we've got an extra little cluster of 3 to do in the centres of the previous round. And again I'm sticking to 2 chains to make each corner and a single chain between each cluster. So there's my third round complete, and I'm now going to tie back in my cerise pink for my 4th round. And while I do that, let me show you what I do with all of my yarn cut-offs. I keep this plastic bag in my crochet bag, and whenever I have any loose ends I just throw them in there. And this is lovely and soft, and this can be used as filling or stuffing for toys and other projects like that. So I've completed here the first side of my 4th round, and as you can see we have 2 clusters in each corner, and this time we have 2 clusters of 3 along each edge. So I'm now working on my final round, which is my 5th round, and I'm bordering all of my squares in white. But the beauty of these granny squares is that you can make them whatever size you like, and obviously use whatever colours you like. Using different colours for all of your squares is a really good way of using up any oddments of wool that you have. So I'm joining in now again at the end of my round and into that 3rd chain of the first chain of 3 that I did to begin this white round. Again, I'm pulling the tail through at the back of the work just to keep it all nice and neat. And there is the completed square. Now, whether you're a beginner or you just wanted a little refresher on how to crochet a granny square, I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'll shortly be sharing a tutorial for a granny square shopping bag or crochet bag or whatever you would like to use it for. So do look out for that. And if you'd like to see other crochet projects, then do let me know in the comments section below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the subscribe button, as it will help others to find me. So that's it for today. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and a wonderful week, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.